Hello, welcome to today's HR Huddle. I'm Tamera Loerzel, and with me is Samantha Mansfield, and it took something for us to get in here this Monday afternoon. So we hope your Monday afternoon is going well. And we're here to talk about topics relevant and pertinent to HR leaders and talent managers, managers and partners, that are supervising talent or, in talent development or recruiting. And so we thought we would do maybe a mini series. And I'm not sure it's going to go completely in order, but over the next several weeks, we thought we would hit on some of the leadership attributes of great leaders and maybe some of the breakdowns or some of the things that we see are contrary to those leadership attributes, and some strategies that we coach people in our leadership programs, partner groups, executive committees on some of these leadership attributes. Sam and I were teasing and said today maybe we should focus on positivity, but we'll do that one on another day. It is one of our leadership attributes. We have 23 leadership attributes. That is one of them. But we thought we'd talk today about vision, because often it's missing. Like, where are we headed? And we thought that would be a good place to start. Get centered on, where we're headed and our starting place, for why we're all rallying and where we want to go and communicating where we want to go. And often we find in our leaders, and it could be young leaders, maybe haven't quite formulated their vision yet. It's also personality based. If you haven't formulated your vision, young people want to know what your vision and or destination, like where are we all headed together? What's, and then what's the map to get there? What roads are we taking to get there? And so that's one of the things that we're working with leadership teams on, is really clearly defining and articulating and communicating their vision and breaking it down so everybody can see what their role and their piece is. But it's often missing. And it is one of those attributes that we think is required for highly effective leaders, powerful leaders, put a stake in the ground out there and say, hey, this is where we're going. And as a firm or a department or a team or even an engagement, it's important to do some speculation, create that context of where we're headed. And so that's why we thought we would start with vision as we were looking at our different attributes. We have 23 attributes that we say are important, and we might name them a little bit differently. There's other words that could be used to describe them, but vision is one of those. And so it's often missing or not communicated. And so we thought we should stop and say, well, what does that look like? So Sam, anything else that you would add in our setup there today, or definition of this vision, why it's one of our important leadership attributes?
Yeah, well, I think we'll hit on the why here in just a moment. But I liked where you started going with who participates in stating vision too, because as we work with a lot of emerging leaders, they may get feedback of, hey, we want to hear your vision, or you need to work on vision. Like you said, it's a leadership attribute. And what can happen is that we have younger or less experienced leaders who have a perception that, well, that's not my responsibility, or is that my place to say what the vision is? And it can feel daunting. And so one of the things is that as we're developing folks, pointing out that you can have vision on that out there, like you were saying, on a number of things. Like if we're trying to re-engineer processes in our teams or engagements, I might have a vision of how this could be improved, or how we incorporate AI, or so many different things. But that's vision. And I think sometimes we need to help leaders see that that is expressing vision, and you're starting to practice this leadership attribute in those moments before you're at the partner table and now it's, where's this whole boat going, like you just said. So it is something that we can practice earlier and really encourage in younger leaders, and use that word so that they realize that, oh, starting to define clarity over some of those pieces, or starting to work with getting people on board and going with me on this journey, that's all practicing vision. So I
Yes.
felt that's valuable to recognize that we sometimes got to break down the examples of vision creation for people so that they can see it can happen at multiple layers within the firm.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think that's one of the things that we like you said, coach leaders on is we need to step back and say, where are we headed?
Mhm.
What's going to be better? Why are we doing this? Our purpose, if you will.
Mhm.
And we can tie it to so many things. And we often just jump into the doing.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
get really busy doing. And that's
Mhm.
all good. And we're producing results and deliverables and all of that. But if we lose sight or lose track or haven't defined our why and our vision, we could be doing things that don't matter.
Mhm.
We could not be inspired.
Yeah.
We might not be motivated or inspired because we don't know the why. And it's hard, as we think about these are leadership attributes, it's hard to lead people somewhere if we're not articulating and communicating where we're going and then
Mhm.
how we're doing against that plan.
Yeah.
And where's the road construction? I was on a road trip this weekend. I hit some road construction. Where is the road construction? And it might be unexpected road construction. It could be planned. We know this is going to be closed over here. And so we need to then make alternative plans. But it's hard to lead people if they don't know where you're taking them. And, trust is required, another leadership attribute. Well,
Mhm.
what garners trust is clearly communicating that vision and updating them, being honest when we're off track, and then reprioritizing because sometimes new priorities come inside of that vision. And
Yeah.
so we can do all of that. So I loved your examples, Samantha. We can practice visioning on things like a process improvement project or in systems implementation or the use of AI
Mhm.
or offshoring
Mhm.
or any of these projects that we're working on. We can create a vision for it, and we need to presence that vision frequently.
Yeah.
We can do it on engagements. Often we don't do it on engagements. Why are we doing this audit for this client? And what difference is it going to, make for them? How are we going to help them be in compliance? And why is that better for them? Or how does it help them if it's a not-for-profit audit, maybe? How does it help them, fulfill on their, mission
Mhm.
and the difference they're trying to make out in the community or with their members or, whatever it might be, or creating arts, in the community. So we can tie it back to their purpose as well. And that's more inspiring.
Yes.
And it's bigger than us. It's outside of us. So I think that's important to consider.
Yeah. And when we're inspired and we are excited about what the result is going to be, it gives us more resiliency in the difficult Mondays, right? The days where, man, things aren't
Why are we
going
doing this?
perpetuating your road trip example. Man, we got a flat tire, we ran out of gas, all these things. But if we're bought in and we're excited about the destination, we're far more resilient to deal with the obstacles that show up. And like you said, too often what we do is we go into here's the action plan. And we didn't really give anybody, pardon me, this idea of where we're headed. So, again, sticking with the analogy, we say, "Hey, do you want to go on a 6-hour car ride?" And most kids I know today would say, "Absolutely not." Now, if I'm saying, "Would you like to go on a 6-hour car ride? And oh, by the way, that's round trip because we're going to Cedar Point and we're going to go spend the day riding roller coasters and eating junk food and doing all of these things." Then it's, oh, wait, yeah, I'll go along. I know that there's going to be discomfort along the way, but I'm so excited about where we're headed.
Right.
And it really is an equivalent analogy. We don't do that. We start telling everybody, here's all the change that's going to be required. Here's the extra effort it's going to take. Note, I did not say time. I said effort. But there's those pieces. And we didn't really give anybody an opportunity to have a true vision or idea of why we're doing these steps. and to get excited and to want to be part of it. And the other piece that you can do when you're doing this vision is find out who the other advocates are that are most excited about this with you and get them talking and participating. Because sometimes what can happen is maybe I have this vision and I've been plugging away and working on it as a leader. And then I try to go present it to the whole group, maybe the partner group, or maybe the service line leaders group, or as HR, maybe you're going to the executive committee and you're trying to. This is the first time I'm trying to articulate it. So valuable to find one or two people that you can go practice communicating that vision with them and either get them sparked and excited to be that advocate with you as you go and start to speak it. And also point out where maybe you're not going to answer the way you're initially putting it out, isn't answering where some of the questions people are going to have.
Yes.
And so then you get stronger at being able to share that vision so that people truly get a sense of it and want to go along for the ride.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I think that's great. I'm debating two places to go. So I think two aspects of vision we should talk about, Samantha, is how do we then tie this to the firm vision
Mm-hmm.
and include young people? But
Yeah.
also we hear a lot of requests about visioning your career.
Yeah.
And articulating that. So I think because of where you just left off, I'm going to go to the greater vision of the firm and where does all this fit. And one of the things that we encourage leaders to do, firm leaders to do, partners, executive committees, is to include their young people in the visioning process.
Yeah.
Get input. First of all, it starts to teach them about visioning. It has them get excited about it. They have ideas and thoughts that maybe we wouldn't have thought of. We might not agree with them either, but they need to come along for the ride. They're part of the long, term future. So we can do that through surveying. We can have the, a representative cohort participate in the vision, process, the vision definition process, and have a vision steering committee that then takes all of that input and comes up with a draft vision for the partners to review and input to. So people are participating and inputting and coming along on the process and learning the process. Yeah. And then we can start to define, all right, this is where we're headed out there. And here's our pillars to get there. Then now here's our strategies. And then here's, our department goals and individual goals. We can see where that all fits and rolls up. Mm-hmm. And, we said young people like to have a vision. They want to know where they're headed. They want to know the why, the difference it's going to, make. It does increase morale. It inspires people. It allows you to figure out where change is and those, curves in the road or roadblocks, where they fit. Sometimes people struggle with, well, I have a vision and a plan, and it feels like it's rigid. It's too rigid. Instead of it's a plan, so we know where all this other stuff fits when we run into them. Mm-hmm. And then we can go back and communicate that. And how are we doing against that? And, what pivots do we need to make? And so it really gives you that structure to be able to pivot versus being rigid. And it's one of the things that, we see sometimes people, struggle with is the rigidity. I don't want to put a stake in the ground because I'm not sure. And we are in such a fast and high volume change right now. Fast paced, high volume change right now. That can feel daunting, but it gives clarity of direction. And then we can all roll up our sleeves. And we've been talking about glide lately. We have more glide in our firm. It's smoother. We all are rowing in the same direction. If you picture that rowboat, instead of somebody sticking their oar over here and stopping and say, wait a minute, that's not where I want to go. Well, this is where we agreed to go. So now get your paddle in and we're headed in the same direction. So I think it's important too, but it teaches people, visioning. And some of your partners need to learn visioning. They're not strong visioners. And I think that ties to personality. We have more N's on the Myers-Briggs, intuition. I can see that vision. I can see what's possible. I can see out there in the future. And if we can tap into that more, S's are going to figure out how to get it done, asking all their questions. And that might sound like poking holes in it, but that'll help us alleviate, potholes, minimize the potholes that we get stuck in.
Right.
So we need both. We need a balance of both.
Yep. And like you're saying, when we craft the vision, what can also help us avoid the rigidity, as well as not being responsive to the feedback along the way. And I just got this question last week when I was speaking at a conference. What we want the vision to be is an articulation of the result that we want at the end.
Mm-hmm.
We want what the change is going to be. The vision is not what we're going to go do. Because if we make the vision about what we're going to go do, then we aren't as receptive to the feedback, or we can be more defensive against it because we're saying, but that's what I was envisioning. If we more vision what the result is, the result is that we need to create more capacity and reduce friction in our process so that the team can work more fluidly from remote locations. Clients have an easier way of interacting with us no matter where they are. This is all results based. I'm not saying my vision is I'm going to have everybody on the team using artificial intelligence. That's the what, right? That's not what we're trying to say, because we really want to say, what is the result we're trying to drive at? And that way, as we're working on that vision, and there's different iteration that comes along, it doesn't feel like we're abandoning the vision. And I think that's an important piece for people to practice, especially as you get started with visioning, is really where are we trying to drive at?
Yes.
And there are some people that are phenomenal at coming up with those vision statements. And then, that's where you can work with those folks, or look at other professionals or companies that are really great at it, and start looking at really how general and benefit oriented the vision statement is, as opposed to it being tactical.
Yeah.
And so important. The other thing that does is that when you also share the vision with everybody, it makes it much easier for them to prioritize their day. So when we understand what we're all rowing towards, right? I just went White River rafting for the first time this summer. And yes, it is very important that you all get running in the right direction. Otherwise, there's a big rock. And you could hit that rock, and we don't all get going in the right direction to get moving around that, right? And so what that looks like for folks on our teams is that when they know what the vision is and we know where we're going, I, as an individual, can look at all the priorities of everything I'm supposed to be getting done, and I can better prioritize, because I can say, well, these are more important to get us where we're going. I could do these other things, but this is where it's ultimately going to get us where we're going, and I should prioritize that. And that really enables you to grow people up as owners and being more proactive. And those are things that we're always hearing leaders say they want in their teams, right? So that's where sharing vision is so helpful. And sometimes we can feel like, it's too big picture, or maybe it's a distraction, but really it does empower your team to be able to be more ownerly of where they're placing their priorities.
Well, and they can place those priorities based on the strategies and the tactics to get to that vision.
Yep.
To your point, I need the strategies and tactics to say, how do we get to that destination?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, measurable. We'll know how we need to know how we got, to define how we got there so we can agree where we're headed. And I think that's true. I'm going to tie it back to the career vision. And because I think that's one of the things that we get feedback is, especially younger leaders, like, they own driving their career. Yes. And we own helping them be successful with it and assigning somebody that is their shepherd or their career advisor to help them map what success looks like at your firm.
Yeah.
So we need both. But as the individual, I'm driving, towards my vision. And maybe my vision is I want to be promoted to, supervisor or manager. In our senior and supervisor program, we have them do some visioning about what's next in their career. Now, some of them might be clear, I want to be partner, but you probably have a lot of people that aren't willing to put that stake in the ground yet. And so it's what's next for them. What do they envision for their career? And so maybe it's getting promoted to manager, or maybe it's getting experience on SALT engagements, or, what is it? So they can start to define, where are they headed? And then they can, identify. We have them use keep, stop, start. What should they keep doing that's at their level? What do they need to stop doing so they can start doing new things to get to that place? So what do they need to start doing to become a manager? What do they need to start doing to get experience with SALT? State and local tax, what is it that they need to do? And so they can start to define that. And then you said communicate it. And we've talked before about the law of seven. I need to say it multiple times. Extroverts are very comfortable communicating it, sharing it. They're out there problem solving it out loud because that's how they're energized. Introverts might have an idea of where they want to head, but they're not communicating. They're not speaking about it. So then people don't know. But again, it's hard to lead people if I'm not speaking about it. That's a whole nother leadership attribute. We'll talk about it another time, but it applies here with visioning because often we find we're not communicating the vision. And so we have to go tell, my career advisor or my shepherd. I have to tell the department head. I have to tell maybe other partners, who need visibility to it. Maybe I need to tell my HR, person, right? So how do we start communicating what my vision is? And you can start with what's next. I don't need this big grandiose. Now, some of your people have a vision to become partner and they have no idea how.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are trying to define that and saying, what's next? What are the expectations? What does that look like? And if I do a SWOT and keep, stop, start on myself, what's missing for me to be working on from an experience perspective or skills development or leadership attribute characteristics? What are those things for me to progress towards partner? And then, yes, there's financial performance that we need to define and marry, right? But then we can start defining what does that vision look like to become partner. And they might be wanting to define that at manager. They're not even senior manager or director yet. How do we map those steps for what's next? So,
yeah. And as HR leaders, I would encourage you to have those conversations with your people and ask them what that vision is, because I run into too many that they worry if, I've talked to young folks who say, yeah, I think I want to be a partner, or I think I might want to be managing partner, but they've admitted to me in our coaching, but I'm afraid to say that. And why? Why are you afraid to say my vision is I'm interested in becoming managing partner someday? And so making sure that we're letting people know that it's safe and it's okay to share what that vision is. And the vision can change. And that is something that's important to realize too. And you said that right at the beginning, Tamera, that vision can adjust and they might pause or they might need to change. And that is the case with our career paths as well. And some people may be worried of saying, well, this is what I'm interested in, because does that mean I'm now on that track and I can't shift tracks or I can't change tracks? And so as HR leaders, I really encourage having that kind of conversation, that setting that vision or communicating it doesn't then mean you're on that track in perpetuity. You can still change directions and we can still have conversations about what new things may be emerging within your practice.
Yeah, you can take a rest stop or you can take a detour. You can go off the ramp and get back on. What does that look like? But it gives you a construct to be able to speak about those things. So hopefully this gave you some ideas, for practicing visioning and encouraging people to practicing visioning and, and scale it in different places and different levels with engagements or projects. And where does it fit in your, firm vision, and how can people contribute to that, their own career vision? So if you have thoughts, or questions, share them with us. We're always interested. We'd love to hear from you. And if there's any leadership attributes you want to make sure we talk about, you can let us know that too. And we will plan on seeing you next time. Thank you for joining us today. We'll talk soon. Thanks. Bye.